All right, college football fans, we are in the last week of the season. It is championship week for a lot of these conferences. This will be the last hoorah for who's going to make the playoffs, who's not going to make the playoffs, what seeding is going to be, who's going to play who, how we're going to do it. We are going to find out. We've got some great games, some great rematches, some that won't be some great. There's a lot of questions about who's even going to make it in the playoffs. I mean, ACC might not even have a participant in the playoff. We might have two group of five teams, which is just absurd. I'm not a big group of five guy. I'm an SEC guy. Big Ten, a lot of respect for them too, but group of five, man, two teams potentially making it. That's just crazy. Anyway, we're going to get off to our first matchup. It's a 1-2 matchup. Amazing to have this for the last game to determine who's going to be who. I would imagine loser would still get a bye. Can't drop too much from a 1-2 matchup. If Ohio State loses, if Indiana loses, shouldn't change too much no matter what. They're going to get a bye. Affect seeding a little bit. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, another rematch from the regular season. We saw Alabama win that previous one, 3-9. Will they drop Alabama if they lose in this SEC championship? If they get smacked, that's a great question. I mean, we already set the precedent that they do not want to drop teams out for losing in conference championships. We saw that with SMU last year. Not sure if they're going to continue that if there's a blowout, for example. There's a lot of great teams that are right on the edge of the bubble that aren't going to make it. Some of them, I think, have a great resume. Some of them fail the eye test. Talking about Oklahoma. And we're going to see. We're going to find out. We also got Texas Tech, BYU, another rematch. I don't know how good of a game that one will be. We'll find out. I have my predictions later. And then North Texas, Tulane, another great one, another group of five. Whoever wins that one is going to make the playoff as a group of five. Really just depends on JMU, ACC. Obviously, if Virginia wins, they're in. If Duke wins, that throws a whole lot of chaos. So we'll find out. But the first game we're going to get with is going to be Ohio State, Indiana, 1-2 matchup. Fantastic game. We're saying these are clearly the two best teams in the country. I'm an SEC guy, but you got to put respect on the Big Ten. They absolutely clobbered the top of the season. So OSU, Ohio State, they're favored by 4.5 in this game. The over-under is set at 47.5, which I'm pretty surprised it's even really that high, just because of, these defenses. You have the first-ranked offense, or the first-ranked defense for Ohio State, and then the second-ranked defense for Indiana. This is just a defensive slugfest. Now, I'm going to go with Ohio State to win this game. I'm actually going to pick them to cover as well with the final score of 27-20. That means it's under the 47.5 that they have projected. Now, 7-point margin, it's still one score, still one touchdown. When we get to the minus 3.5, minus 5.5, it's really all one score. Are you thinking these are two one-score teams or lose by a field goal? It gets kind of dicey when it gets that close. But the reason I have Ohio State is that defense is just, we're talking about historically great. The points per game is insane. They can't stop no one can pass on them. No one can rush on them. The third in passing, third in defense on the third in rushing. It's just elite defense. And we'll have to see. This will be Mendoza's best defense by far that he's faced this year. Obviously, two Heisman candidates for quarterbacks. You got Julian Sayin and then Fernando Mendoza, both squaring it off. And, the Ohio State offense, it's not getting a whole lot of talk. Obviously, the defense is the one carrying, but the offense is still pretty elite, two elite teams. You got 13th in points per game for the Ohio State offense, 13th in passing. That goes to show Julian Sayin's leading the country in completion percentage, absolutely killing it. Only 69th in rushing, not typically what you see for an Ohio State team for sure. They've had some great backs come out of there recently. And then Indiana's offense, also stellar offense, stellar defense and offense. They're just a complementary team. Their offense is second in points per game. They light it up. They played a kind of a bit of a easy cupcake schedule, but we're going to see, especially they're going to be tested against Ohio State. They are 43rd in passing yards per game. Mendoza, it's typically blowouts. You don't really have to throw the ball or push the pedal, so we'll definitely see in this Ohio State matchup he'll really be tested. We saw him against Oregon and he did great. And then they're ninth in rushing. A lot of that too. They have a great rushing offense, but they have such a big lead a lot of the times. They don't need to pass it, kind of rush it, kind of in the game kind of deal. But yeah, two elite teams. Can't see either one of them dropping out of a bye, no matter who loses, who wins. But I do think Ohio State, this is just their year to have a repeat championship. I mean, they're just stellar on both sides of the field. Great quarterback, great defense, whole lot of first-round picks. Great team. Shout out to Indiana for being one of those like more mid-tier schools historically, and then blowing up recently. Kurt Sidnegety, great hire. They just re-signed him. I really thought he was going to go to a bigger program, so shout out to him for staying at Indiana. But yeah, Ohio State 27-20 covers the 4.5, and then under 47.5 with the total score of 47, obviously 27-20. Now the next matchup that we're going to get into is Georgia versus Alabama, number 3 versus number 9. Now this one is really interesting because they have played before, and not only have they played before, Alabama actually upset Georgia. So you have Georgia 3rd ranked, Alabama 9th. Alabama beat them previously, and they have Georgia favored despite Alabama beating them. And the over-under set at 47.5 in this game. Now, I am actually going to take Georgia to win, unlike the last one. It's a bit of a revenge game. I also just think they're a more complete, better team. And I'm going to go 24-21 for the final score. That means that Georgia would cover the 2.5, win by a field goal. And like I said, when it gets to these one scores, win by a touchdown, win by a field goal, it's just, when it's 2.5, it's kind of like a pick 'em. Who do you think's going to win? I'm going to take the 2.5. I expect them to win. It'd be a one-score game, still a close game. And then fairly low scoring. Now, the Georgia team, they're pretty well-rounded, offense and defense. They're not really super elite at anything, but they are still top tier, have great talent. They're 23rd on offense scoring points per game and 25th on defense for opponent scoring. So, I mean, you're just talking about both a high-caliber offense, defense, nothing elite, nothing really flashy, but Gunnar Stockton, he's a veteran, he's scrappy, he'll get it done. A lot of faith in that defense, even though their rankings are a little down this year. They always have the talent, they play scrappy, they play tough. That's just Georgia football. And then you have the Alabama offense, which I was actually surprised. I thought that they were more prolific than they were, but only 29th in points per game. 12th, obviously, in passing. Ty Simpson, he's been great. But only 120th in rushing. That is just crazy, especially for the Nick Saban era. When you're talking about smash mouth defense, rushing the ball down their throat, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Trent Richardson, just great guys, ton of great guys that came out of Alabama. So really surprised with how their team has functioned. They kind of got built like a Pac-12 team a little bit. Kalen DeBoer brought a little bit of that Pac-12 spirit. Not really smash mouth, run them down the middle, tire them out kind of team. They're really like a, let it fly, kind of flashy kind of team. And then their defense, I was also surprised. I felt like their defense wasn't as productive this year as it typically is. I mean, Alabama's known for these elite defenses. But they are 11th in opponent scoring per game, and this is with a pretty gauntlet of a schedule. I mean, Alabama had a great record against their schedule that they played. Multiple top 10 matchups. Can't ever forget the rivalries. I mean, LSU smacked the hell out of them. Auburn, that's a rivalry game. They outplayed them completely. The score really was closer than the game actually was. But yeah, they're 7th pass defense, 11th in rushing for Alabama. So they're actually a really underrated, pretty high quality defense. And so I do think that this one is going to hit the under just because Georgia doesn't have a very prolific offense. And then Alabama's defense is pretty stout, pretty stellar. I'm going to take Georgia in this one to win, unlike the previous matchup. I'm actually going to flip the scores. So Alabama won 24-21 the first time. I'm going to take Georgia 24-21 this time around. And that is underneath the under of 47.5. Now, Georgia should be able to win as long as Alabama's not able to get any splash plays, big plays down the field. They're not a sustained drive kind of team. They can't really run the ball on first down, set up a short situation. They can't really do that. And I just don't think that they're going to be able to win with flashy big plays like they did last time. Georgia's going to be definitely prepared. They're going to be buttoned up. They're not going to have blown coverages, safety covers over the top. They don't have to be worried about the rushing team. So I do think Georgia is going to win this one. Now, the real question is, will they drop Alabama out of the playoff? If the score is 24-21, it goes down to the wire. I don't see them dropping Alabama off. They purely showed that they can compete with, a top 4 team, number 3 ranked Georgia, and be worth the playoff spot. They already beat them once and before. So we shall see. If they get their brakes blown off by Georgia, I don't know. Alabama might be the first time we see a conference champion really get knocked out. Next big matchup that we have is Texas Tech versus BYU. Now, these teams also played each other again. You had Texas Tech absolutely smoking BYU 29-7. And Texas Tech is again favored big. They're favored by 12.5, and they have the over-under at 49.5, which I thought was also a little high. They're picking these to be kind of high-scoring teams. Even though that Texas Tech defense is just elite. It's just nasty. It's up there with Indiana. Ohio State is historical, but they're still pretty comparable to Ohio State's defense. I mean, just great defense. And then that offense has to be respected as well. I mean, 4th in points per game for Texas Tech. A lot of that is the defense that is creating opportunities, short fields for the Texas Tech offense. But, I mean, that's just complimentary football. It's what you would hope for a championship caliber team, which I do think Texas Tech is. I would say they're one of the 3 best teams. I would put them over Georgia. Personally, they've had their quarterback for that one loss to Arizona State. Can't really shoot them in the foot too much for that, and obviously the committee still has them at 4th, even though there's other one-loss teams. So they have a lot of respect for Texas Tech, as do I. Now, my pick for this game is going to be Texas Tech 31-14 over BYU, and that, obviously, Texas Tech covers 12.5. They win by 17, and then that's under the 49.5. I don't think it's going to be very high scoring. I mean, BYU's offense, they're just going to get absolutely smothered by Texas Tech's defense. I mean, they're 78th in passing, which Texas Tech's defense does have a bit of a weakness against passing, 37th in pass yards per game. But BYU's offense, they're just not that elite at throwing the ball down the field or making big plays. They do have some really good receivers, but they're just not able to make those explosive, fast, splashy plays that they can do. And then they're first in the, Ohio State and Indiana great defenses. They are first in rush yards per game, which is BYU's kind of strength. They are 23rd in rushing per game on offense. And that goes into a big part of their game plan. How they expect to win is with solid defense and running the ball, which I do not think that they'll be able to do against Texas Tech. And then I chose the under for this one because BYU's defense is also very respectable. They're 17th in the country in points per game. They're 20th against the pass and 33rd against the rushing. So they create a good bit of turnovers. Great red zone D. They don't let finish in touchdown drives and things like that. But, I mean, they're just not going to be able to keep up with Texas Tech. Texas Tech is just one of those elite teams. I'd group them with those top 4 really elite teams that are out there that have a great chance of winning the championship. And so 31-14, Texas Tech absolutely routs BYU. Kind of a bit of a replay of what happened earlier in the season with BYU scoring a little bit more. But, yeah, I mean, Texas Tech, they're a great team. BYU obviously will get dropped out of the playoff if they do lose. Now, if they do win, I mean, that's going to create a heck of a scenario because all of a sudden you have BYU that's, they earned their spot. They beat Texas Tech, one of the best teams, and then Texas Tech would be one of the premier 2-loss teams. I mean, you lose in your conference championship. They're not going to drop them too far. Like, they're not going to miss the playoffs for losing this game. So they need to have 2 Big 12 teams. Super crazy. A lot of respect to the Big 12 this year. They're clearly the 3rd best conference this year, without a doubt. ACC is just really a stinker this year. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of chaos that can happen. BYU wins. That's 2 Big 12s. That's another one of those on-the-bubble teams that'll get knocked out. Right now, number 10. Who's number 10? Notre Dame? Notre Dame, yeah. Notre Dame get knocked out. So Texas Tech to win that one. Obviously, I've gone with most of the favorites so far. Ohio State favorite, Georgia favorite, Texas Tech favorite. And then I'm going to continue that with the North Texas Tulane game. I'm going to take North Texas to win that one. They're group of 5, but, a lot of respect for these teams. They have Tulane is kind of, when you look at their stats, you're not really sure how they made it this far, how they are ranked 20th in the country. There has been a lot of talks about them being ranked so high. I mean, their coach, their coach John Sumrall, he said that they don't deserve to be ranked. They're a terrible team. So extra motivation for their team. Maybe he's saying it how it is. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm going to take North Texas to win 38-31. Now, the spread is 2.5, and the over-under is 67.5. So that means I'm going to take the North Texas spread and take over 67.5. Now, that is a crazy line. That's one of those that if I saw without really knowing the context, I'd be like, okay, that's an easy under. That is just insane amount of points. But, I mean, these teams are going to put it up. It's going to be a great, entertaining game, kind of like old school Pac-12, 35-38, crazy score kind of games, because man, this North Texas offense, they can light it up. If they play against the right team, let's say they win and they make the playoffs. If they play against the right team, I could absolutely see them getting away with an upset. I mean, their offense, they are first in the entire FBS in points per game, second in passing yards, 29th in rushing. But, I mean, when you're passing, it's just that prolific. 29th in rushing is actually pretty respectable. Now, it's their defense that really struggles. They're 79th in points per game. Bottom half of the entire college football. They're 12th in passing per game, so they're pretty good if they get matched into a pass kind of team. They're just like an outscore, shootout kind of score if they do make the playoff. But they're 133rd against rushing. So if they play a good smash mouth rush defense kind of team-oriented team, I do think that it'd be pretty ugly for them. But they are playing Tulane, who's 27th on points per game in offense, and 42nd in points per game in defense. So, I mean, not terrible. Pretty solid. Nothing really jumps out to me except their defense is 113th in pass yards per game. That is terrible. One of the worst in the country. And they're going against the second-ranked passing offense in the entire league. Oh, yeah. This is going to be a shootout. Still going to take North Texas. It's going to be a great game, I think. It's going to be a very entertaining game. If those are your kind of games that you like to watch, the shootouts, definitely want to pay attention to this one. But, yeah, North Texas 38-31. That means that they would be in the playoff in the college football. They would get that group of 5 bid. And then we would just be depending on the ACC with Virginia and Duke. If Duke wins, ACC will not have a representative. Assuming JMU wins, they would be the other group of 5, the Sun Belt team to make it for their conference championship. And so we'd have 2 group of 5 teams if Duke can win against Virginia, which, I think it'll probably go one of those ways with Virginia Duke. It's one of those, like the ACC calls, they're like, hey guys, our conference, we had a bad year, but we do want to be represented in the college football playoff. This is great sponsorship, great exposure for all teams that are in the ACC. We still want to be respected as a conference. At one point, they were one of the premier conferences. It's kind of gotten a little top 2 heavy recent years, but they still want to be a respected conference. They still want to be in that conversation. So I do think there might be a little bit of a conversation going with Duke. I'm like, hey guys, look, we want a representative. You guys, you had a great year. You made the ACC championship, but you're 8-5. There's no real chance that you're going to make the playoff, even if you do win. So why don't you do what's best for the collective, for the ACC? Not necessarily throw the game, you know what I mean? But, we want Virginia to make it. That way ACC is represented and everyone can benefit from the ACC and everyone being represented. So that's my championship game picks. Obviously, there's some other championship games. I'm not too concerned about, JMU versus Troy, I believe, for the Sun Belt. And, yeah, it's going to be a great championship week. It's really a lot of questions that are going to be thrown about. I mean, there's a ton of chaos with last week. You had Oklahoma, who almost lost to LSU. Honestly, probably should have lost to LSU. Blown coverage at the end of the game. They haven't been able to push on LSU's defense all game. They would have lost that game. That would have blown it up even more than it did. But Texas beating Texas A&M. Texas only going up to 13th, which I was very surprised with. I mean, if you pretend that they played a cupcake instead of Ohio State, they'd be 10-2 with some really premier wins. Obviously, they had some really close games with some really bad teams. It's kind of what's been hurting Miami's resume. But Miami has not played the caliber of teams that Texas has. So, 10-2 Texas with that kind of resume didn't play Ohio State. If they played some cupcake and they won, are they in the playoff? I'm leaning towards they are. I mean, they beat Oklahoma. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Texas A&M. I mean, that is a fantastic resume. All of those teams are within that bubble or in the playoff already. And just crazy. Just crazy, crazy, crazy. So, yeah, that wraps up our picks. I'll go ahead and finish it off with I have Ohio State covering and the under winning 27-20 over Indiana. I have Georgia covering and the under 47.5, 24-21 over Alabama. I have Texas Tech covering 31-14, and that is also under 49.5. And then I have North Texas covering 2.5 over Tulane, 38-31, which is also over the 67.5. A lot of favorites that I picked. I think the odds books, it's championship week. These teams are really going to be playing hard. It's one of those that you never know what could happen. I mean, there's always big play blown, momentum change. That's college football. That's why we love college football. And just the atmosphere and everything else that can have such an effect on it. So that's how it's going to go. Georgia basically gets a home game against Alabama for the SEC championship. So that's a pretty good advantage for them. And yeah, hope everyone enjoys their college football weekend. I think it's going to be a great slate of games. None of these games, except for Texas Tech, I have projected as a blowout. And a lot of questions will be answered for the college football playoff. I would imagine they don't move any of the teams that are already not playing in the championship game unless someone moves below them. But this is still, a bit of a resume builder for some teams. You could say, now I guess I can't see any teams really moving from this one. So yeah, if you did not make the championship game, if you're outside of the bubble, maybe if you're one spot out of the bubble, you can make it. But other than that, I mean, you're pretty much locked. You're outside of the playoffs. You'll have potentially 2 group of 5 teams making the playoffs. I mean, it's just crazy. We need a rework, no doubt, no doubt. I imagine they're going to get together. They're going to announce something over the offseason. They already played with expanding the playoff pool. Some playing, saying guaranteed spots for teams. 4 SEC teams, 4 Big Ten teams make it. An ACC, a Big 12 representative. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, great week of college football. I hope everybody enjoys their lovely Friday and Saturday. You get some Friday games, great Friday games. That's not often you get that for college football. So definitely enjoy, you guys. And then signing out.